Gridworks is a company dedicated to investing in Africa's electricity networks, transmission, distribution, on-grid and off-grid. Our mandate is principally focused on Africa, but also opportunistically in Asia. We aim to be, we are, a first-of-a-kind developer investor in this space with the mandate to bring affordable, reliable power across the continent of Africa. Let's put this into context. Africa, a continent with 1 billion people, yet 600 million Africans don't have any form of access to power. 400 million have access to only very sporadic, unreliable power at best. Without the requisite infrastructure in the electricity space, businesses and economies cannot meet anything like their true potential. Repeated business surveys highlight the fact that it's not corruption or red tape or bureaucracy that impedes business development and economic growth. It's electricity. Over the last 3 decades, there has been very material investment in Africa's generation. But unfortunately, this hasn't been matched by the required need in electricity networks, neither transmission nor distribution. So Africa really requires billions of investment today, and Gridworks will play its role in meeting this need. Well, if you look across the African continent, there are very few countries that have a sustainable electricity sector. The vast majority find it very difficult to raise the required capital sums to meet the long-term investment needs. Consequences of this: underinvestment, large losses, blackouts, and decaying infrastructure. The quantums of money required to meet this need, to rectify the situation, are enormous. Public sector funding is not sufficient, and the private sector will need to play a role alongside the public sector. The metrics that we look at will be very much dependent on the type of investment we make. In the distribution space, many of our metrics will relate to efficiency gains, such as loss reduction. In the transmission space, we're generally looking at volume of electricity moved, transported, wheeled. And in the off-grid space, we are often looking at metrics such as CO2 displaced. But ultimately, any of the metrics, whatever the metrics we use, are a function of having a profitable, sustainable business at its core. Ultimately, we need to increase the number of countries in Africa that have well-run and sustainable electricity networks. This will not happen overnight. We will need to work with host governments, with multilaterals, with DFIs, and with donors to achieve this objective. But the biggest problem we have today, there are no ready-made investment opportunities in this space. So we have to create those opportunities. We have to develop those opportunities. And we do this by spending time and effort working with host governments, with utilities and with distribution companies and transmission companies across the continent.